afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of The Edge. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, as well as Abundant TV, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. We're syndicated now. I'm tickled about that because we're all over the world, and other Cowboy churches have been in contact with me about that. So this is pretty awesome. I have Phillip Gilliland with me now, lifelong friend right here. As a matter of fact, I've said, if I pass on before you do, you're going to speak over there, right?
I hope maybe that's not anytime soon.
Maybe it'll be the rapture. You won't have to worry about it.
That's right.
So Phillip is with the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches, and he has brought a very special guest with us right now. And I'll let you go ahead and make the introductions. I'm going to step over here to the side.
Yes, this is my youngest son, Jacob. Jacob is a student at Cornerstone Christian, and he is also an entry in the For Him Youth Rodeo, which he does. He does 2 events. He does shoot dogging, and he does steer riding. But we got rained out for this weekend. Jacob is the one that usually goes with me. His brother, who turns 15 today, John Patrick, they're both students at Cornerstone. My wife teaches at Cornerstone. But Jacob, because they're out of school, he's with me today. But he goes with me a lot of places. We've been, he goes with me to the state FFA convention, to Amarillo, to the WRCA finals, to all kinds of things and events in between. He's always, a lot of people see him with me all the time. Most people think he's my grandson, but he's not. He's my biological son. He's the youngest of 4. I have Joseph, the oldest one, Jason, the next of the oldest one, John Patrick, who's the 3rd one, and then I got Jacob, who's my youngest one. And I'm thrilled for him to go with me. It always makes things go better. And if I need somebody to Google something while I drive or give me a direction, he is really getting good at that. And I'm thankful for my boys, all 4 of them. But I'm glad to have him with me today since he got out of school because of the weather today.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yes, it's
Jacob,
always awesome to have him with.
I got to ask you a question, Jack. Why do you hang out with this dude right here?
Why do you like to go with me?
I just enjoy going with to places.
And you're learning a lot too.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. A lot of folks are putting down kids, and I just can't do that because I see so much uniqueness from guys like you. And we go to a Cowboy church as well. So we're over there in Fort Payne and Collinsville. A huge amount of kids.
Oh, yes. And that's the thing. We were talking about it at our church this past Sunday because of the kids and the young people. And there's so many of them. And at Lookout Mountain, who's just exploded. And I was doing a little report this morning for the AFCC and I always talk a little bit about all our churches, but I pointed out how Lookout Mountain is they're in the process of building on, and it was just the first of the year that we dedicated a new building, and they're already out of room, and that's a wonderful thing. And but to say something about the young people, there's so many young people that could be doing things much worse, and they may not be attracted to traditional church, but there's something about Cowboy Church. We've actually baptized ourselves at our church, like 8 or 9 people in the last month, and most of those were young people. So it gives us a chance and a place to share the gospel, and it's just like the For Him Rodeo that got canceled this weekend. Every time they have a rodeo, they share the gospel. That youth rodeo is not necessarily part of a church or part of the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches, but we do help sponsor it, we do encourage it, and they always share the gospel at every event. So, that's the kind of thing that we want to put our energy and efforts into is an event where young people are going to hear a version of the gospel.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Cowboy Church. I still get questions, and this is pretty unique as well. I don't know if you get this question a lot, but so what happens at Cowboy Church? People ride horses and cows?
Yeah.
We get that question a lot.
Well, it's not as bad as it was about 15 or 16 years ago, because there was a lot of bad, ugly rumors that we worship cows and it's just a bunch of redneck.
No, people in India do that.
Well, yes, we're not Hindus, but, we found a way to do church that attracts a lot of people that would never go to a traditional church. And I'll just say it like this. We did a funeral last week for a really good friend of mine who came to Cowboy Church 8 or 9 years ago. I don't know how many, but he has 4 generations of his family that come to our church, and he was the first one, and he came to know Christ out behind my barn one night about 1:45, and we baptized him the next day, and ended up having his whole family, which there's a bunch of kids, and I baptized several of his grandkids, and what a blessing. But I said all that to say this: I doubt Bobby Green would have ever went to a traditional church. It just wasn't his thing. And but because of Cowboy Church, he's in heaven today. I can tell you, no doubt in my mind, Bobby Green's in heaven, and what a blessing that is. But it's always hard to do those kind of funerals, not because you're not overjoyed that they make it a decision to follow Christ, but you still have to look at those grandkids and try to explain to them why he's not here, and that is my challenge. But so Cowboy Church is not just for people that ride a horse or participate in rodeos. It's for everybody that is wanting to come just like they are. The same way that people went to Jesus in the New Testament, in whatever shape they were in, whether they were blind or crippled or had leprosy, Jesus accepted them, whether they were caught in sin or of a denomination that believed in other gods. When they came to Jesus, they came to him in whatever shape they were in. And so when we do Cowboy Church, we let the barriers down and let people come to us in whatever shape they're in. We don't ask them, you got to get fixed up, you got to get straightened up, and then come to church. That's not the right that's not a biblical process. The process is to come in whatever shape you're in, and what Jesus does with you is between you and Jesus. And it's not between me or not between the church and you. Every person's relationship with Christ is a unique relationship, and it's personal between that person and Christ. So it's not up to us to judge anybody, fix anybody, or tell them anything other than the gospel or what the Bible says about things. And that's kind of what we do, and that's what Cowboy Church is. It's a place where we figured out a way to lower the barriers and let people come just like they are to church.
Well, you don't have anything else to think about.
Right.
You don't have to think about, do I have the right clothes on?
Yes.
None of those things, all those barriers. I was divorced once, young mom. My son was very young, and I remember not being able to give a whole lot to the church. I could have, but I didn't. And of course, I actually suffered the consequences of not tithing. But I remember being really embarrassed because I actually had change, and you could hear it echoed while they were walking around with the plate. And this is just so much better. The box is always as you come in.
Yeah, we don't pass an offering plate, so I think that's a big deal. If you've ever had an offering plate passed in front of you and didn't have anything to put in it, then you would understand how relaxing it is not to have to worry about that. But you mentioned that thing about divorce. We've had some people recently come to our church that came from another denomination, and they were purely ostracized because it was neither one of the people's fault. They weren't the one that wanted the divorce. They weren't the one that made a decision to do something different, but they couldn't help it. But yet they were still ostracized from that particular church that they were at. man, when people are going through a crisis, they don't need our condemnation. They need our love and our prayers. And the last thing they need is our judgment. So, I feel good about what we do when it comes to people going through hard times, and we try to be an encouragement to them. And because I can tell you, all of us have hard times. It's not a matter of when you're going to go through a valley. You are going to go through a valley, and it can be as deep and hard as life can make it. But we just want to be an encouragement to folks and try to help them grow in the Lord and grow through all of that.
I've got to mention kids. I also remember, I've done 3 of the things already.
Yeah.
No money hardly.
Yeah.
Divorce, that was a rough
Right.
thing. And then kids are going to cry. I mean, they're kids.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something I love about the Cowboy Church is when a baby cries or just talks, being a kid, nobody slams them. Nobody
right.
looks at the mom,
Yeah.
can't you keep that kid quiet? As a matter of fact, people almost applaud it
Yes.
because we actually have young people in the church.
Well, I always tell, and we have some new young couples at our church with little kids, and I try to make it a point to go tell them in the beginning, look, if that child gets disruptive, he's not disrupting us. I promised you. Don't worry about it. Now, if it bothers you, that's one thing, but don't take that child out because you think it's disrupting us. Man, I think when you hear a little baby cry in church or hear one being a little kid, just being a little kid, it means you've got life in the church. I don't want to be in a church that don't have those sounds in it. I want to be in a church where you hear a baby cry and you hear a little kid act up every now and then because you got a future. And thank the Lord for these folks in our churches that work with those. And I know Robert and Selena do a lot of yours. And we have a whole group of people at ours that do amazing things. Ours meet on Wednesday night. We have 3 different groups that meet on Wednesday night. And then even more important, just as important, I have a certain lady that comes and she doesn't feel led to teach, but she wants to be involved, and she came and she started doing all the cooking. And goodness, I mean, she is a great cook. I know Wednesday night there was some leftovers, and I had her to put it in a Ziploc bag and send it home with me. She is such a great cook and such a wonderful lady. Her and her husband started coming there, and they don't have children, but she wanted to participate, so she started doing the cooking 2 or 3 months ago, and she hadn't missed a night. And what a blessing that is. So it's amazing to get to do what we get to do, and to have people this one's age. And Jennifer Cox is the one that her and Miss Barbara Akins do our young people. And what a blessing it is. They not only do they get they go to a Christian school, but they come to church, and they know the answers to a lot of things that get. And some of the teachers tell me, said, "Man, Jacob really knows a lot about the Bible." I said, "Well, he goes to a Christian school. They have a Bible class, and they have a great teacher." So that's the way I want my kids raised. And thank the Lord, we've got people that started sending their kids to our church, and they didn't come, but now they've started coming. And I've thought so many times about the wisdom in the words that a child shall lead them, because we've got several cases of where a child has actually led their parents to church and led them to salvation because they came and responded to hearing the gospel. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
Well, I'll tell you something I think is pretty unique. When I was growing up, going to church, there was an amen corner. Like the men were on one side and the women were on the other side. Well, no teenager wanted to be in, including
the
me,
amen corner.
Did not want to be in the amen corner. But we're going to church. Don and Judy Hunton.
Yeah.
And Don is the pastor there. The kids are actually the teenagers.
Are the amen.
Actually in the amen.
I know it.
And that is just That weirds me out. It's
Well,
like, how are you doing that?
I've said I know this happens all the time with that youth group, which is, and I think it's a credit to Robert and Selena and Brother Don and Miss Judy and the entire church. It's a credit. But they are out to, if they saw a person out in a parking lot somewhere, they'd walk up to them and say, is there anything we can pray for you about? And I love that about the youth group at Lookout Mountain Cowboy Church. They are bold for Christ. And I know when I left, I went over there to on the dedication service and got to preach. And when I was driving out the parking lot later that night, kids stopped me and say, is there anything we can pray for you for before you leave? I love that. And of course, I had Jacob with me. He remembers it because he was with me. And those are the kind of things that I think is a real credit to our churches is to see activity. Of course, we're doing a lot of, right now, we're doing some fundraisers. And most of our churches are because of the camps that are coming the end of June and the 1st of July. You know, we do these cowboy camps every year. We have hundreds of kids that come from, we do 3 camps. We do one for Texas, one for Oklahoma, and one in Alabama. And we have kids that come from everywhere. I mean, by the hundreds to these camps. One of our, as far as an organization, one of our greatest expenditures is what we put into camps. But we're investing in the young people and the kids that come. And every year there's hundreds of professions of faith that come out of the camps. And right now we're getting ready to take a couple of young guys through the pastor process, and they came through cowboy camps. And they became wranglers, and you know they're the Lord's called them to be pastors. So there's some really good stuff, and people you can't measure and get it all into a focus of everything that's positive that may or may not come out of those seeds that are planted at Cowboy Kids and youth camps. It's unbelievable.
It's awesome. And the camps, I just wanted to mention this. You know, sometimes it's just turning over a new leaf, and then it just kind of wanes around. The kids from last year are still talking about the camp from last year.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not one of those, I'm just turning over a new leaf and I'll be doing this for a couple of months or a couple of weeks or whatever. They're still in it, and they're bringing more kids in.
Oh, yeah. That is the best part of it is they keep adding to it and adding to it. But I remember a few years ago, and Jacob would remember it, the first year, and we need sponsors to go. We have to have a sponsor for ever so many kids for each church, because we do a pretty thorough background check of anybody that's going to be around our kids. It's just, and it's sad, but it's the day and age we live in, and we want every kid, their parents, to know those kids are safe.
Well,
they're in a
moms
safe
and dads want to know
place.
that. So that's important.
So we go to a lot of effort with that. But the best thing is, we had a guy, we needed a sponsor, and a guy named Timmy Akins from our church had never been before. Timmy didn't necessarily grow up in church. He was a new Christian, but I knew his heart. I knew that he would be a good one to go, and he went to church camp, and it changed his life as far as serving. He's now a lay pastor in our church, and he would tell you that he goes every year now. We don't have to ask him. He volunteers every year to go. He said the greatest thing that ever happened to me was going to that first church camp to see what it's really like to be in a super spiritual service with a lot of young people, and see, because he said you can't be, Timmy would tell you this, you can't be there without some of it affecting you, and it changed his life, and now he's one of my go-to guys, Timmy Akins, Miss Barbara's husband. So camps, like I said, you can't measure everything positive that comes out of them, because some of it is down the road a few years. There's seeds being planted for all sorts of great things that may come, and and we have a lot of people that devote some really serious time. I mean, those people that work in the arena, Paul Kirby and some of those guys that do the arena stuff, it's hot out there. And these kids are out there throwing steers and having the time of their life, and they have everything all over them to do with that atmosphere, and they have a ball. Now they love it. That's Jacob's going to be competing in the shoot dog, and I can tell you where he learned how to throw a steer. It was in Cowboy camp. That's where he learned that at.
And so how big are these steers?
Oh, they're not giants, but they're
big enough.
They'd be big enough. They'd be all you want. They'd be all an old man like me would want for sure.
How does somebody become a sponsor?
Well, you need to start with your pastor of your church, and usually we're looking for sponsors for camps, but you'd start by going to the pastor of your church. Now, the more active group is these 19, 20-year-old wranglers, because they are the ones that are hands-on, getting dirty with the kids. But all of those people have to go through the AFCC training and background check for wranglers, even though and we usually know them, and once a kid serves as a wrangler, he's going to come back every year until he's too old to come back, because they never get over it. I mean, they never get over it. So one of our, and I talked to her yesterday about something else, but Miss Connie Sanford is on staff with me at the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches, and Miss Connie has a real heart for this. It's one of the things that her and our executive director, Jeff Bishop, it was in their DNA about these kids and camps, and thank goodness that we got people in key roles to keep making that a priority, because man, I'm telling you, having done youth ministry myself in traditional church for years, I want our kids above all else to be hearing the gospel, to learn the things they need to learn to be good servants. And so as we move forward, and it hurts my heart, but I know from talking to our directors of missions, and they now call them associational mission strategists in the Baptist Church, and those guys are really struggling with some of these country churches that are just drying up, and what happens in those churches is they don't have young people, and if your church doesn't have young people, your days are numbered. And that hurts my heart, because I grew up in a traditional country church, and I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for those people that invested in my life when I was a young person. So I hate that times are like that. But I can tell you the positive side to that. Southern Cross Cowboy Church in Arab is a great example of that. Back a couple of months ago, we were offered a church building and it's a super nice building, where a church just simply ceased to be because they just didn't have. But that church is full now. And not only that, but people are coming to know Christ, and people are being baptized, and that church is just booming right now. We're taking out the pews and putting in seats because we can put more people in there, and we're like Lookout Mountain. We're running out of room already, and I thought, well, it'll be forever before we run out of room here, but it's not. It has already happened just in a couple of months, and they don't have a pastor yet. I'll get to fill in there the second Sunday, a week from this Sunday. I get to fill in there, but different ones fill in each week, and it's still people are coming to know Christ. And it's not about the guy. It's never about the person. It's about the Spirit. It's about the Spirit. It's not about the guy that shows up to preach. It's about when the Spirit shows up. It's not just the guy. It has to be sent by Almighty God. And
Well, I got to say this too, because every idea, every reason you would have for not going to church when we started going to Lookout Mountain Church, three walls.
Yes.
I mean, like all kinds of air. It was cold or it was hot.
Yeah.
No comfortable seats. We were bringing our own chairs, little fold-out chairs, and they're not the most comfortable seats in the world.
No.
So, I mean, for every reason, every excuse, I've heard people say, I don't like the carpet. I don't like this. I don't like that. People were still coming.
Oh, it was amazing to me.
It just blew my mind. It was like, wow. I mean, every excuse out there, they have every one of them.
But that's what happens when you take away the barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Buildings and stained glass windows and steeples can be a barrier for people. I'm sorry. They're pretty.
Mm-hmm.
They're nice to look at. But they can be a barrier for certain people, and man, Jesus did most of he did 99% of his preaching. The only time when he went to the synagogue, he got mad because of what they had turned it into. He said, "You turned it into a den of thieves," and so he did his preaching either out of a boat or on a hillside or somewhere outside. So I like to think that we're preaching in an atmosphere similar to what Jesus got to preach in. I love this. I really am thankful that at this point in my life I get to do the things that I get to do and pastor the church I'm getting to pastor and serve the people at the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches that I get to serve. It is a tremendous blessing to me.
Well, I was always a hyper kid. Mm-hmm. And I'll have to tell you, the beautiful stained glass always had me staring.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying that much attention to the preacher. Let's go ahead and cut into a commercial break, and we are going to be right back in just a few minutes. Y'all hang in there, okay? At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. Let Rhonda at Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC take the burden off you for all your tax needs. I know because Rhonda has been taking care of my business since 2013. I feel Rhonda works for me because she knows the direct questions to ask to better benefit my unique business in order for me to get back the biggest refund possible. Rhonda is an ongoing student, and she knows tax laws are in a constant change every year. Call 256-281-9903 for an appointment to take the dread out of getting your taxes done. Rhonda is located at 11968 U.S. Highway 431 in Boaz. Again, that number is 256-281-9903. And let Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC champion your personal and business taxes.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and my employees and I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support. With everything going on right now, your rest is so important. That's why we're having the biggest MyPillow sale ever. Not only are my bed pillows as low as $19.98, but you can get the best body pillows ever. Regular $89.98, now only $29.98. Take your rest on the go with our Roll and Go Anywhere MyPillows for only $14.98. And we have our new couch and accent pillows. They aren't just for looks. They have MyPillow's patented adjustable fill that gives you that amazing MyPillow comfort. In this economy, you get the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code and you get deep discounts on body, couch, bolster pillows, and so much more, including my original bed pillows for as low as $19.98. Please order now while quantities last.
Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. Begin a great year and save big money with these specials at Albertville Foodland Plus. A 5-pound bag of red or gold potatoes, only $2.99 each. Warm up with Campbell's Chunky Soup, 2 for $4. Slim down with gold salads, only $2.99 each. And make sure to check out the deli with fresh veggies and tasty pork chops or hand-battered chicken fingers, only $5.99. Check us out on the web at shop.goodlandgrocery.com. Okay, we are back. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of The Edge. I want to peek in The Edge. You can find us on IC Radio. Download the app. It's free. And if you'd like to suggest songs, you can do that as well. We got lots of cowboy folks and singers who go to the Cowboy Church. And I was at an event where was that in? Oh, in Tennessee. It was a music event. And so when I would tell people, they would say, what church you go to? And I would say, I go to the Cowboy Church, Lookout Mountain. And have you ever heard of it? And they'd go, the Cowboy Church, can you get us in there? Because we feel so much freedom when we're singing at a Cowboy Church. So you can also watch us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. You can also find us on Abundant TV syndicated. We're found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You can also check out their website, and that's abundanttv.com. abundanttv.com. Okay, Phillip Gilliland with me right now, very good friend of mine, and so glad we met.
Yes.
I didn't remember how long we've known each other.
Gosh, I don't know, but I was trying to, when you said that, I couldn't remember how in the world we did meet, but it had to be before that grand
Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
It was Hobby Lobby, and what was happening is I was teaching some classes.
Yeah.
And somehow we got connected, and then one of your church members actually came to class, and I just blossomed out, and I mentioned you, and she said, he's our pastor. So.
And you don't remember who that was?
I don't remember who it was.
I sure don't. But
anyway, hey.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of it.
It's funny how it's beyond our comprehension how God orchestrates the things that He orchestrates in all our life. I mean, it was a time I really needed to know folks like you. Well, and it's been good for us because it's given us an opportunity to make much of cowboy churches and talk about events and things, which we have. I hadn't said anything about it. Of course, our For Him for this Saturday got canceled, but it's not going to rain forever. We may think it is right now, but it's not. We'll be back in that arena. It's most of the time it's the first Saturday in every month, and it's there's 2 of those events going to take place at the Trading Post Cowboy Church. The rest of them will take place at Southern Cross's arena, which is at the Rockin' R arena, and but on the 18th, and Brother Don called me about this the other day, on March 18th, there is an elder camp put on by the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches, and most pastors and elders are people that desire to grow in church leadership to that point. They're coming to that camp. It's being held at the Trading Post Cowboy Church where I pastor. We'll have food that day. We'll have 2 of the best men I know of, Brother Reggie Underwood and Brother Douglas Hovarder. Reggie is from the Cowboy Church of Ellis County in Waxahachie, Texas. Brother Doug is from Circle J Cowboy Church in Texarkana, Arkansas. And they are the two main speakers that day. They're both awesome elders and dear friends of mine, and I have a lot of confidence in what they're coming to share with our men in leadership that day. So other than that, we've got lots of things going on in lots of churches, everything from Boston butt cooking to quarter auctions where they're raising money for kids to go to camp. And if you just Google Cowboy Church, you'll find a way to get connected, or the closest Cowboy Church to you. It'll give you the email address of the American Fellowship of Cowboy Churches, which is americanfcc.org. And on there, you can actually put your zip code in, and it'll tell you the closest Cowboy Church to you. It'll also have all of the staff's name and contact numbers on there. If you want to start a Cowboy Church and you're in an isolated place, reach out to us and we can help with that. I'm working with a couple of guys in North Carolina now and some other places to start new churches. My counterpart who I serve with on the new church start team, Danny Bry, has people that he's talking to from in Utah, Idaho, and Montana. We already have some churches in Utah and Montana and Wyoming, and they are expanding. Our team, the new church start team, is a very busy team. Because we have these opportunities that Cowboy Church is really growing. Back when the first Cowboy Church in Alabama was the Cowboy Church of Marshall County in Albertville. Albertville was my hometown. I lived there the first 59 years of my life. And I moved across the river to Grant to help start the Trading Post Cowboy Church, which is 14 years old this month. Jacob wasn't even born then, but his brother John Patrick was about a year old when we started, and John Patrick is 15 today. So happy birthday to John Patrick, and I saw him this morning before we left, and I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something pretty special for him probably before the weekend's over. And but Cowboy churches are growing, and we want people to come. We want people to feel like they're a part, that there's not a barrier that you have to cross or a hoop to jump through to get to come to Cowboy Church. That is the opposite of what Cowboy Church is. You don't have to be a cowboy. You don't have to be anything other than but understand we are a church. That we're not. We come to have church, and we come to share the gospel. That being our number one goal. Jesus told us three things in the New Testament to do. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and might. Then he said the second one is kind of like the first one. Love your neighbor as yourself. And then he said, go make disciples. Go share the gospel. And that's what we found, a way that's kind of unique. But people identify with this not having barriers, or not having to look a certain way or act a certain way to come to church. And I'm thankful to get to see that and get to be a part of that.
You know, people of all social status come to these churches as well. And nobody knows that once you're in there.
Well, I've said it over and over. You know, it thrills my soul because there's three guys in our church that are engineers, and I'm thankful. I tease them and aggravate them all the time because they're particular about how things are done. But I've also looked back there and saw a guy that drives a garbage truck for a living, having a cup of coffee and chatting with each other. Mm-hmm. And you'd never know it. People that come from people that come in our doors, they don't know that this guy may be an aeronautical space engineer and this guy drives a garbage truck, or they don't know that. And we're not that. The Bible tells us, James in one place, and Paul also said the same thing. You don't have respect for, and Jesus said it. You're not supposed to have respect for people. You ought to look at them on the same level. We are all just encapsulated in a body of flesh, and nobody is more important. When Jesus died on the cross, he didn't die on the cross for a few people. He died on the cross for anybody that would accept him. And it didn't matter who they were, what little they had, or how much they had.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And sometimes people in certain social standing, it can be pretty wealthy, and because they are, people will treat them differently.
Yes.
And that's not fair either.
No.
You're not getting a true assessment of that person.
I hope we don't do that. I think we're above all that, and I hope we are. We should be anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've got to mention the cooking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember I had a ribbon cutting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And do you remember the lady at the Chamber of Commerce told Phil? She said, "No, tell Donna. I know she's ambitious, but tell Donna maybe 5-10 people may show up."
Yeah.
Over 400 people showed up that day. The chuck wagon was
people
there.
love our chuck wagons, and
that's a ministry within itself.
We have come to learn, and being an old arena guy myself, I thought the arena was the only way to do outreach. But several years ago, not long after we got into this, I discovered that chuck wagon is gold because there's so many opportunities. But it's, first off, it's mobile. We load it on a trailer and we can take it anywhere. We have an enclosed trailer that ours stays on all the time. We never unload it unless it's to do some little maintenance to it. But there are so many opportunities to go and cook. Like we cook for the Cavender's grand opening in Huntsville. When we cook for Cabela's at their grand opening in Huntsville. Mm-hmm. And if somebody calls and says, "Hey, look, we're doing a benefit because this lady who has cancer and her family's really struggling," we may just go cook and sell plates for a donation. I mean, we found so many different ways to use that chuck wagon. Curtis Chesser, who is our key chuck wagon guy, he has taken it to another level and a whole other ministry. When he goes to places like Kentucky after the tornado and cooks and feeds people that don't have a way to get food. So that chuck wagon thing is pretty big, and it's that same group of people that when us and Bobby Ledbetter and Miles, when we were trying to feed, ended up feeding somewhere between 40 and 50,000 people. A ton of people. People are still talking about that. It was a great opportunity, and we couldn't have done it without Bobby or Miles. I mean, it'd have been impossible to done it. But our chuck wagon people and our chuck wagon teams are the ones that showed up and cooked all night and cooked Boston butts all night long for us to make plates and give them out. What a blessing that was. We did that in 5 locations over a period of about a year and a half or something. And then adding Christmas. And then added that Christmas. So, I mean, all of that was through the chuck wagon stuff. And what a blessing that was. We kind of carry a chuck wagon around a lot just because it grabs a lot of attention, and plus we do use it. I mean, we have cook boxes on it. We have all the Dutch oven utensils there that our people use. It's amazing to see. Yes, and it's work. Now, I mean, those people they do some pretty incredible work with that, because it takes a lot to do that kind of. They'll start cooking, like if we had an event we're cooking for, they'll be out there starting fires at 4 a.m. Because they have to. Things don't just appear hot and ready when you want to start cooking. It takes a little longer with a chuck wagon. You get the coals and shovel those under the right places and have a way to get started. So those teams are very hard-working teams, and they are so effective with this ministry.
Oh, and they love what they do.
Oh, they do.
You know, and I've got to mention this. Sometimes you'll do things and you think, well, nobody appreciates it. What am I doing this for? And I know Bobby Ledbetter didn't think this at all. He's temporarily close to location. I think he's going to be firing back. And so, in a way, I'm glad this almost happened. And I'm saying that because people have so responded to Bobby.
Oh, yeah,
talking
he's
about
a great
how
guy.
they've responded. I mean, about how you fed us during COVID.
Yes.
And, and rough things happening in the area and what have you. People do appreciate it. They just sometimes just don't mention it, but they do.
They do.
And I think he sees now.
Yes, and there were so many other people like John Merrill, our former Secretary of State, and Mr. Haynes. There were so many. Yeah, Tommy.
Going to places outside of his representative area.
I mean, they were there to serve people. They weren't there. They weren't there to be a politician to be seen. They were there to be a servant, and what a blessing that was. And we got to meet so many really nice folks in that process. It was really good. And when I could, I had these boys with me, and they helped us, hand out food. I wanted them to know what it's like to hand food to somebody that might not have food. I wanted them to see people that didn't have what we have, and the look on their face when they did a lot of lifting and carrying up in front of the Ag Center at that Christmas one when we fed all those people in Rainsville. We had them and some other kids from Cornerstone that were there that were handing out food, and so I think it was good for them. And I got a good picture of him with John, and John gave him some things. John, I will forever be grateful to John Merrill for many things, but he always took time for these kids and encourage. He was always trying to be encouraging when he was around the kids. That to me says some very positive things. Yes, it does.
I remember the very first time I asked you about how you baptize people, and you mentioned the horse trough. And I'm looking at you kind of funny like, and I'm like, what do you mean? A horse trough?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. That's pretty
Well,
neat.
I mean, we were a little spoiled in our new church building because we have one now that has a hot water heater and everything.
We don't have one yet, and everybody's freezing when they get baptized, but they don't care.
Yeah. We did without one for a long time, but thank goodness it's been a blessing to have it. But we for a long time just baptized outside in the horse trough, and we had people from traditional churches say, hey, look, I got saved over at the church over here, but I want to be baptized in that horse trough. I said, well, you come and we'll either baptize you or you bring your pastor and he can baptize you. And then one of my cousins, Bobby Cochran, called me one day and said, hey, we got somebody that got saved and wants to be baptized, but they want to be baptized in a horse trough. I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, do you have one we can borrow? I said, yeah, I'll bring it to you. And so I carried it to him, and a week or two later went and got it back. But the horse trough has kind of been a novelty, and we've had a lot of people, even that didn't come to our church, want to be baptized in a horse. I think there's something. Of course, when I was a kid, I got baptized in Brother Roy Pledger's farm pond. In the old days, people got baptized in the Tennessee River or a pond, and didn't think there wasn't any such thing as a baptistry.
We didn't know what a baptistry was.
That's right. But so I think people still identify with being outside, being outdoors, and maybe being baptized. Now, I've got a son and a daughter-in-law and a granddaughter that's all been baptized in the Jordan River in Israel. And they say that's an experience that's unbelievable.
That's what I've heard.
So, we don't have that, but we do have that. If you want to get baptized in a horse trough, that's all Cowboy Churches has is a horse trough. But, most of the time we can warm the water, and especially like in our church where we have a hot water heater underneath this big pedestal that has the horse trough on it. So it's got to be very convenient, and it's a little easier on the people getting baptized.
Yeah, it is. I'll have to say Salt Creek, which is in Talladega, on Cheehaw Mountain.
Yeah.
It's cold there all the time.
Oh, it never gets.
No,
never.
never. Not even the hot summertime. So I was actually baptized there, and I remember how cold that was.
Yeah. Yes. And baptism should be something special to everybody because, we do follow two things that Jesus told us to observe. One of those is the ordinance of baptism, and the other one's the ordinance of the Lord's Supper. We do take the Lord's Supper from time to time, and we try to follow those two things.
Now, on fifth Sunday night, everybody kind of crowds around and goes to a particular church. So
I love our fifth Sunday nights. Our churches in this area, we rotated around, and in fact, Brother Don, the next one is at Lonesome Dove in Holly Pond, and your pastor has been asked to be the preacher there. So we're excited about that. But every fifth Sunday, we rotate churches. And the host pastor usually invites who he wants to preach, and they are responsible for the food on that Sunday night. And all our churches go together, and we have a meal together, a great time of fellowship. Then we have a great time of worship. Now at this last one, which was down at Asheville, at Rugged Cross, Brother Doyle Stevens pastor's Rugged Cross Cowboy Church, there was 2 salvations at that last fifth Sunday night service, which was amazing. That's even better. But I love our fifth Sunday nights because we're all together, and it I think is a little bit like what heaven's going to be like. We won't be this church or that church, but we will be the church.
I got to mention Judy Hunton. When you guys came to our church, it was raining all around us.
Yes.
And so I'm practical. So I said, Judy, it's raining all around. We're going to get wet. And she said, that's not going to rain here.
Yeah.
And I said, looks like it. I mean, there's like water all over the place, and you could just look out on the horizon all around us, raining all over the place.
Yeah.
She said, no, I've already asked God, it's not going to rain. It didn't rain.
No, it didn't. It rained everywhere
when we got
else.
in, it did.
Yeah.
But during eating and everything, it was just like this.
Well, it was,
little shield
and it was
around us.
great. The food is always so good, and the fellowship is so good. And then you go from that to a worship, and it just don't get much better than that.
I listen to Judy now.
Yes.
Well, sort of.
She's a precious lady.
Precious girl.
Yes.
She most certainly is. And we've been talking about several events. We've got just about 6 minutes left in this segment. So we have lots of events for the kids.
Yeah.
Now the men and the women also have separate events in each church.
They do. There's conferences that go on, and we had one back in February. We had. I think I said this right. I believe it. No, maybe it was January. We had the Testing of the Bulls conference up at Thousand Hills Cowboy Church in Etheridge, Tennessee. There's one coming up at Cross Halo Cowboy Church in Cleveland for the ladies. There's 2 or 3 other. If you know the name of the church, every church has a Facebook page, and you can go to that Facebook page and find out what their events are.
Lookout Mountain, we're going to have one for the women. I won't be there. I've got a previous commitment. I'll be in Oxford at this music thing. But it's going to be the 3rd Saturday in May.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're going to have
I do remember seeing that.
They were already sold out of tickets.
Yeah, they did. Good. Well, that's awesome. I think it's good that we have these things. They're ways for us to keep our spiritual battery charged. They're ways to keep us spiritually encouraged and keep moving forward. And I love it when those churches do conference. I go to a lot of them. I speak at a few of them. We'll have a pastor processing coming later this year. We will have a ranch house school when I get the date. I have a staff meeting on Monday in Texarkana, and I'll have a lot of those dates then. I think I've got some tentative dates on that calendar already for them, but we haven't made the flyers. But they'll be coming in a couple of months. We'll be into those events, which are those are some of the main things I think, especially for younger Cowboy churches. Come to the Ranch House School. Come and learn why we do this church model that we do. You know, we don't vote on things. We do things more by consensus. I won't say we don't vote on anything, but we don't vote on many things, and we do things more by consensus. We don't have a bunch of committees. We have teams. We have embraced this model that helps us do the mechanical side of the church, where it doesn't interfere with the spiritual side of the church. And that's why I think Cowboy churches are growing, why they're successful, is you don't let the mechanical side of church, the business side of church, interfere with the spiritual side of church.
I think that's pretty unique. We were going to a church one time that had been known for the women to start fighting if you had to choose the color carpet. And so they were going to vote on a Sunday night. And I told Phil, I said, I'm not going.
Yeah.
And they said, are you sick? And I said, no, I just don't want to be in the middle of the carpet thing. I can care less what color carpet it is. And I didn't go that night because of that. Yeah. I said, I just don't want to be in
it. I listened to this thing, a YouTube thing that Jerry Clowers talked about in church, and he gave a beautiful testimony. But in the middle of that thing, and I met Jerry on numerous occasions. I shared breakfast with him on numerous occasions. But in that YouTube video, he said, don't be a nitpicker. He said, in talking about church, don't be a nitpicker. Don't worry about those little things that don't matter. Worry about the guy that's going to hell and is lost, or is not treating his family good, or not working and providing for his family. You worry about what's important. And don't worry about those little things. Because
it just really doesn't matter.
Yes.
Those things just do not matter. A little bit over 2 minutes left in this segment. What would you like to tell the folks before we close?
Well, to me, the most important thing, and every time I do a funeral, I realize how important it is again. And it seems like over the last 3 years that we've done our share of funerals. I can tell you the most important thing for anybody is to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior above any and everything else. To be active in a church, get in a church. Doesn't matter what kind of church, get in a church. Be active in a church. Give to that church. Serve in that church. You better, because that's why that the line is so clear right now between black and white. A lot of revivals are taking place and breaking out all over the country. And I want to be on the side that's going to heaven, not the side that's going to hell. You need to have a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we are going to close right now. Thank you, Jacob, for being on the show today. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And I just told Phillip when Jacob walked in, I didn't even recognize him.
He's just
and I said, we're going to have to put a rock on top of his head so he doesn't grow any taller than that. And Phillip, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
And I wanted to mention one other thing. I think we've got some time. Okay, for folks who are thinking about getting into the ministry, maybe God has a calling for them, can they get training through the Cowboy Church?
Yes, we have a thing called the Ministry Development Program, which is through it's actually college seminary courses, and you can find that, and you can find that program at our website, americanfcc.org. But that program is very active. We got the first ones, though, and we have one of those guys in our church, Dakota Gant, is about to graduate from that. He's one of the first ones that started a couple of years ago. So that there is some educational training. Those guys do a tremendous job. And most of it's online. The majority of that's online. So
and it's very affordable.
It is.
It is. As well.
It is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys for being on the show today.
Our pleasure.
And you take care. You're the apple of my eye. I know you could be doing anything else, but you're watching us, and we sure do appreciate it. We also appreciate our sponsors. We've got Lowe's, brand new, Amazon, Walmart coming in, and Michael's. If you are a crafter, Michael's is one of them as well. But again, thank you so much for watching. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and Abundant TV worldwide. That's on Amazon. And you can also find us on Roku, and also many other avenues too as far as the websites there as well. Thank you again so much for watching. You have a good one. Bye-bye.